starts off with the move e4 and then e5, the most common move in chess and also the most common position in chess. And then after knight f3 and knight c6, the two most common second moves, white decides to play the Spanish, also known as the Ruy Lopez. And it's not as common as the Italian or some other openings, but this has been played over 150,000 times at master level, so still very, very important. And here black has many, many different options, such as the Schliemann defense, the Berlin defense, but also, more importantly, just like in this game, the Morphy defense. And this poses the question on white whether they wish to capture on c6 and take away their bishop pair, or to simply drop back to a4 as white did in this game. And here the theory continues with knight f6, castling, taking on e4 and then the move d4. Nothing special so far, as this is all theory, but soon things get very, very tricky and crazy. So here, black decides to take the pawn on d4, and here white decides to play the move rook e1. All very, very simple so far. The only thing here is that the black knight cannot move because the white move rook has pinned it to its own king on e8. So here black has two options. Either they can defend their knight with the move f5 or with the move d5. And black decides to use the latter with the move d5. And here white plays a very, very nice move, bishop g5, utilizing the pin because you cannot take this because of the pin on your king, and this also attacks your queen. So very, very important stuff. And here black plays the move f6, stopping this bishop from attacking the black king. And so white responds with the move knight takes d4, because if you capture this bishop on g5, we take your knight, and when you capture back, there is this lovely fork on c6 on your rook and your king. So that cannot happen. Instead, after knight takes d4, instead of capturing our bishop on g5, black will play the move bishop c5, maybe getting an eye on the pawn on f2 in the future. And this becomes very, very important after the move knight takes c6. Now, the same thing applies as before. If you capture this knight, there is this fork. Very, very important. So instead, after bishop takes f2, instead of capturing our knight on c6, white will play now the move h1, which just sort of sacrifices a rook, but for a very, very good reason. If you take this, we take your queen. As simple as that. So after king h1, white decides to actually play the move queen d6. A lovely move, sort of protecting their queen and not allowing it to be captured. And after this, you'll never guess the move which white played. They played the move knight c3, sacrificing the bishop, sacrificing the rook, and also sacrificing this knight. First of all, let's look at what happens when you capture the knight. When you capture the knight, it is very, very simple. We take on e4. You take back, and then there's this. And here, it is actually, after this position, plus 5.4 for white, as your pieces are all on the back rank, and your pieces which aren't on the back rank have absolutely no coordination whatsoever, not even mentioning the fact that black has double isolated pawns on the board as well. So that is very, very important. So instead, after the move knight c3, black decides to be very, very sensible and very, very careful with the move castles, as suggested by the board arrows. And here, white plays another brilliant move with the move knight e7. And the idea here is that if you capture this knight on e7 with your queen, we have the move queen d5 check. And when you move your king, we simply capture this back, probably with our rook, because then you don't actually lose the rook. So that is what happens after you capture the knight on e7. So white let black capture the knight, but black did not capture it. Instead, they played the move king h8, seeing all the threats. And here, white played a pretty obvious move, knight takes c8. And here, black plays knight g3, sacrificing their knight. And the idea here is that it opens up white's king, and now it is very, very prone to some things. For example, the white bishop is hanging. You may want to drop it back, but you can't do that because this is mate, as the bishop is cutting off g1, and this queen is threatening on the h-file, as you can see. So you cannot play the move bishop d2. Instead, we have to play the move queen takes d5, stopping this move here, threatening mate because of this bishop stopping the move queen h4. And here, black does as any chess player would do. They capture the bishop, renewing the threat of mate on the h-file, because there is nothing to defend this square on h4. So white plays the move rook e4, stopping the queen from coming to h4. Very, very normal, right? Yeah. After the move g4, though, this is still a threat, because the rook cannot teleport through the pawn to the queen to take it, so this is another threat of checkmate. But no, white has another defensive resource with the move queen h5, stopping this queen from coming to h4. And here, on the total opposite side of the board, black lashes out with the move b5 for whatever reason. And here, it's actually a very, very good move, by the way. And here, white doesn't care and plays yet another brilliant move with the move rook f1. And this is very, very nice, because let's say you capture the bishop on a4. I'll give you 5 seconds to try and figure out what you can do here. You play the move knight e2, and this traps the queen. The queen cannot come here because of the rook, and the knight cannot come here because of the rook, and the queen cannot come here because of the knight, and cannot come to any of these squares because of all these pawns. And it is totally trapped, and can also not come to the h-file because of this queen, and is totally and obliterally trapped. And this is incredible, an absolutely incredible thing. So instead, after rook f1, instead of capturing the bishop, white plays the move g6, just like so. And here, white does danger levels. Captures the rook on g4, just like so, attacking the queen. The pawn, sorry, on g4. And here, the main idea is that if you take the queen on h5, we take your queen, and you cannot take the rook back because of this rook hanging on f8. Very, very nice stuff. So after rook taking the pawn on g4, black sacrifices the queen on c3. Another brilliant move, because the idea is that if you capture this, black can actually capture your queen on h5, and you are losing because you have 2 or 3 pieces under threat, and you are losing this game by 1 point, says Stockfish. So instead of letting sort of us capture this queen, we play the move rook takes g6, because the idea now is that the black queen is still under threat of being taken, but without our queen being under the threat of being taken, because the pawn, which was once here, is no longer attacking our queen. Very, very important. So now, black decides to play the move queen d4, getting their queen to safety, and also attacking our bishop on a4. And we play the move c3, sacrificing the bishop on a4, because if you take the bishop on a4, it is mate in 2, just like so, and your king is totally cut off by everything, and that is an incredible mate in 2. So instead of capturing the bishop on a4, black is forced to play the move queen e4, which also attacks our rook on g6. This game is absolutely crazy. And now it only gets crazier, because white plays the move bishop c2. And here you can't even capture this bishop because of the same thing as before. The same mated 2 with queen e5, and then the rook has to block on f6, and you capture, and it is cut off once again, just totally like obliterating the black king. So it is the same mate in 2, just like so. So instead of this, after bishop c2, you cannot capture this bishop with your queen, and instead black plays the move rook f5, attacking our queen on the h5 square. But it only gets crazier, because if you found this move, you are Magnus Carlsen. Rook g8, phenomenal. Your only legal move is to capture the rook, and after this, queen takes h7, because when you take the queen, there is this. And not only is it a fork on your rook, you cannot move this rook, because if you do move your rook, we take your queen. It is a pin and a fork, with your other piece also being under threat as well. Let's say something like this, there's just this. You cannot even take because of this. Absolutely incredible. And in this position here, black resigned after 26 moves. An incredible game of chess. If you guys enjoyed this game of chess, please do leave a subscribe and a like on this video, as it helps our channel massively. And this game was simply incredible, so just look at this position and admire it whilst you can. Goodbye guys, see you guys in the next video.